Hello, and welcome to the Just Mates podcast, where we aim to destigmatise men not speaking up about mental health. Remember to follow our social pages on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Just Mates Pod. You can listen to and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor and Apple Podcast. All the links are provided in the description. In today's episode, we discuss bipolar disorder, also known or was known as manic depression. I guess I kind of wanted to touch on this, maybe also to just educate ourselves as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because that's one straight. All I know about bipolar, mate, is that there's two polar opposites of moods that you can have. It's either manic depression or there's something they call, which is like mania. Obviously manic depression, which we have talked about and stuff, is like you can't see a way out of it. Life is all dull, blah blah blah, everything's rubbish, you know what I mean. We always talk about this. And then there's mania, which we never really talk about, which is everything is positive, not positive, but like I've heard from people and numerous sources and stuff and videos. I think Stephen Fry has got bipolar disorder. He said that mania is like, it's so hard to control because every idea you have is amazing sort of thing, and you can't calm down.
It's like an impulsive kind of thing and like overwhelming at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. But it's to do with it's all to do with brain chemistry, isn't it? So.
Yeah, it is, and it's obviously everything that we've discussed is kind of how our brain works and what things trigger us, etc. And it's the same with bipolar disorder. Like there are certain triggers and certain things that kind of make us feel more depressed or feel more excited or whatever it is. I just wanted to touch on it really. I guess something that maybe just like people like don't really like consider as much. Like they'll see someone who's like maybe overexcited and think, oh, what are they doing? Or like kind of take the piss a little, but not actually kind of really think about maybe why they're behaving this certain way.
Yeah, and I think it's that's a really good point. And I also think that it's one linked to one of those things where it's saying like, oh, maybe that girl, maybe that guy is bipolar or something, or you're just bipolar, you know what I mean? It's like it's you can't really say that because people who have bipolar really struggle, and that's just from what I've heard. And
I think you're right. It's the same with like people say about OCD, and like obviously with that there's a lot of negative connotation, because people think that it's just like making sure that the keyboard's aligned with the mouse or whatever, and then people will have that kind of thing where, oh, maybe they just don't like a door being open and kind of diagnose themselves with OCD, whereas there's people with actual OCD who are like completely suffering from this in like really like depressive ways, and then you're kind of negating that kind of high level of OCD.
Yeah, and I have been guilty of this with bipolar like as well, to be honest, because I've had numerous occasions in my life where I've either been extremely depressed or I have been everything is pretty good. Everything's going,
or too good.
Yeah, or too good, right? And I could never really find out or like put my finger on what's the in between. So you shouldn't self-diagnose. Sorry, I interrupted you, but you shouldn't self-diagnose, especially with something like this.
No, definitely. And I think as well, like people use the term, not even just bipolar, Sam, or like OCD, not even disorders, but depression in a general consensus is used so loosely. Like people will say, oh, I feel so depressed today, but like they might feel low and they might feel sad, but using that word, kind of you're associating yourself with something that is so severe that you're now, when people are actually depressed, people are going to look at them and think, oh, it's actually not that bad. it kind of like dumbs it down a little and makes it not as important as it should be. And I think bipolar is like you just said, like we sometimes see people and say, oh, they must be bipolar, but I think we should refrain from saying these things, whether it's to do with bipolar or any other disorder, because there are obviously severity levels of bipolar, and there are things that trigger it. Like I'm listing here, it says childhood trauma, stressful life events, abuse, neglect. Obviously, we mentioned brain chemistry and also genetically as well. So there's a numerous amount of like causes for it. But to just say off of just generally to say just because you're feeling low one day, you can't just say you're bipolar.
Well, so, yeah, and there's something in here which I never really, I kind of always thought that you having bipolar, similar to depression and stuff, it can stem from childhood, as most things do.
Yeah.
But I mean, it says here, like, although lower levels of stress are unlikely to cause bipolar disorder, for some people they can trigger an episode of mania or depression. So what I'm kind of reading here is like, out of stressful life events like a relationship breakdown, money worries, poverty, and experiencing traumatic loss, that can cause bipolar. It says unlikely, but I think it can cause it. So yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you could get it at any point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not like saying like it's a disease, but like I didn't realise you could develop it like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess trauma can come at you at any time in your life. You can be 50, you can be 5, you can be 10. I guess in that sense, what it kind of says here in a summary is pretty much it's about regulating your emotions. And say if you're going through a certain trauma and you're not able to actually hone in on your emotions and realize what you're feeling, I guess going forward from them traumatic events, and something random happens, you don't know how to be happy, you don't know how to be sad, so you don't know how to control these emotions. So this case of bipolar comes in where it becomes a disorder, because whatever you're feeling is kind of amplified by 10 or 100, and you just don't know how to deal with it when it's on a normal basis. So then it just keeps going and growing and growing and growing, and then it becomes like an episode, as you could call it. Yeah,
and they say, I'm reading off of Mind, by the way, mental health charity, no one knows exactly what causes it. Research suggests that a combination of different factors, including physical, environmental, social, increase your chance of developing the condition. So there's no, like, you can't put your finger on thing. Everybody's case is different. So
I think but maybe I think this is probably a good thing to look at within behaviours of your friends and family. Like if someone is acting a certain type of way and you realising out of nowhere they're kind of becoming really moody or aggressive, and you're kind of thinking, oh, this is like out of character, maybe don't just assume that they're just being like annoying or just kind of winding you up. Kind of like delve into it a little more and see maybe something's triggered them, and maybe something in their past has made them react this way to this certain situation.
Yeah, and that's a really good point there, because you literally cleared what was in my head, because it's like if I was angry at you now for whatever reason, if I was just angry, right? I know you as a person, you'd look under the reason as to why I was being angry and then try to resolve it, whereas some people might just be like, oh, he's being angry.
Yeah, and just leave them to it. And I think sometimes you kind of have to give it a bit of extra kind of attention to, especially if it's people around you. Like naturally you're going to want to care, and you should care about like why they're behaving this way. And I guess people can become quite frantic and maybe over express their emotions, because that's what it says. It says you can't really regulate your emotions. And I guess say if, for example, someone's feeling happy about something, but to a normal person it'd be just like, oh yeah, this is great. But to someone with bipolar, they might be like excessively like excited, jumping around, kind of, and you might think, well, what is this like lunatic doing? But in your head, I mean, like, obviously that's not the way to think, but actually you've got to really kind of delve into, there's more to it than just what face value it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, a good point there. And I'm also, because we've spoken about depression a lot, right? People know what depression is. Everybody does. So you're down, upset, tired, sluggish, low self-esteem, agitated, perhaps even suicidal. And then I don't think we've really talked about, the manic episodes.
Yeah.
So happy, euphoric, increased energy, confident, feeling like you're untouchable or can't be harmed. So it is that kind of what you were saying with the impulsive maybe type of behaviours, and then I guess that could lead to maybe drugs, rude, aggressive behaviour, alcohol, excessive spending, taking just actual no care for your own safety. So I think that is the other side of bipolar, which people don't really get.
Yeah, I think, that's a really good point, actually, because like, even for instance, gambling, it might be just because someone's got over it. Like, some people just know when to stop, don't they? Like, some people just know whether it's the right thing to carry on or not. But maybe someone with bipolar might win like a tenner and become an impulsive person and get overexcited and kind of drive themselves into this wedge of gambling and keep doing it and or whatever the substance is, gambling, drugs, or whatever, and they just have no self-control. And I think, I'm not sure, I think it obviously takes a lot of research, and maybe people listening have experienced this themselves or have helped people that have suffered with bipolar. But I guess it's important to know what you should do in that situation to help someone.
Mm-hmm. What you mean, like if you are to help someone, like, or you mean like actual like a diagnosis and treatments, or what do you mean medication?
Both, really. I think we should really discuss like what we should do. Yeah, I guess the first instance would be to diagnose it. Like, how can you diagnose that you've got bipolar?
It's a really difficult one, because I think some symptoms obviously are going to be common with. I know it's common with depression. And reading on the article as well, which I think we've talked about before, but very briefly, borderline personality disorder, BPD, and schizophrenia. So they're basically, mind is just saying consult your doctor, and that is so true. Don't go on Google, because that's what I did before. You probably didn't. And it says, you might have bipolar, and it's just like, yeah.
It's just like if you have a cut on your toe and you Google it and it kind of tells you you've got herpes or something. But how does that work? Yeah, I mean, you don't want to do that, really. And it is right the best thing to do is to get professional help. And another thing here, it does say on this website as well, Mind One, I guess if you notice some irregularities in yourself or someone around you, maybe kind of note down their patterns of, like, maybe do something a little extra, note down what they're doing in their day-to-day life or what you are doing in your day-to-day life, that you might notice that at 12 p.m. I'm feeling extra overexcited, but it comes to 9 o'clock p.m. and I'm feeling extra depressed. Maybe kind of find out what you're doing in your day that's kind of making you feel these emotions, because then that way you can kind of hone in on the cause of your moods, and you can realize that maybe I can actually control my bipolar.
Yeah, and I think there's just reading on like another link going off of that now, which you sent me from the National Institute of Mental Health. There's different types of bipolar. So there's bipolar 2, and I can't pronounce this last one.
Cyclothymic.
Yeah, I sound like I've got a lisp that.
It sounds like a transformer.
You did better than me. Bipolar disorder 1, defined by manic episodes that last at least 7 days, or by manic symptoms that are so severe that the person needs immediate hospital care. Usually episodes occur as well, typically lasting 2 weeks. That's depressive episodes. Bipolar 2, defined by a pattern of depressive episodes and hypomanic episodes, but not the full-blown manic episodes. Oh, this is quite confusing.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which you pronounce better than me, I'll just call it C for now, defined by periods of hypomanic episodes as well as periods of depressive lasting for 2 years.
See, this is quite extensive as well. And like, even when I thought prior to this call and when I was thinking of this topic or whatever, when I heard the word bipolar in my past or whatever, I guess I kind of assumed it was very short term in the moment. But from what I'm reading here, it's kind of something it kind of drags on.
Well, if you've ever been depressed, you're not like, I don't get depressed for an hour.
No.
Really, I can get sad for an hour, 2, 3, 4. But depression, it normally hits me for at least, I don't know, maybe 3 days to 6 months. You know? Yeah. So I can sympathise with how that must feel, but I can't imagine feeling mania for that long.
No, of course. And I guess like even people around me, like friends and stuff, will probably say that I can be quite moody and stuff. But to diagnose myself with bipolar, that would be kind of stupid of me. But I guess in terms of empathy and sympathizing with those that have suffered from this to a severe level, it is horrible. Like, if we talk about our own experiences, it is horrible from randomly feeling great to literally within like 10 minutes, you don't even know what's triggered you and you start to feel rubbish again. And I have had like moments I still have moments like that, especially during lockdown, and especially this lockdown, specifically, it's hit me a lot. Like, I've noticed Sundays and Mondays are my worst days for my moods. I will feel rubbish. I will feel absolutely horrible on a Sunday. Like, I will feel moody like all day. And then Monday comes in and it looms in that it's the start of the week and nothing's happening again, another day. And then gradually my mood gets better during the week. But like Sunday and Monday are usually my off days. And I don't know if that's a form of bipolar, but it's definitely a form of depression, I think.
Yeah, well, it's going to be how you're interpreting those days, mate. And, you know, your environment, I think your environment is the single most important thing, really. To be in a nice, content environment, you know, where you're not worrying or stressing about things. You've got a lot of things to be stressed about, mate, admittedly, and that's coming from me, you know.
Yeah, and I do kind of agree with that, but I also kind of look at it in the terms of somebody could be in a massive mansion where the environment is great. They've got people around them. They could be having they've got a cinema room, they've got like a tennis court, a basketball court, football court, but they could sit there on a 2 p.m. on a Monday afternoon and feel shit. I mean, but their environment could be great. There's certain times in your life where it doesn't matter what material things you've got around you, what your environment is telling you. I think it's your mind that kind of takes over and tells you that. It kind of negates everything that's good around you and tells you that you should be feeling sad. And I do get that. Like, obviously environment plays a massive role, going out for a walk, which I do daily, and things like that. But there are times where not even them things help.
Yeah, well, it might just be a case of, I mean, it's tearing a little bit from the topic here, but like, it might just be a case of changing environment, and that is the hardest thing to do at the moment.
Yeah, of course. And for a lot of people, like we said at the start of the call, something that you said, Sam, that you didn't really think that it could happen at any time, like bipolar, for instance. There might be several cases during this pandemic that people have actually been diagnosed with bipolar because of their environment, because they're stuck indoors, because they're doing the same thing day in, day out, and it kind of looms over them, and that becomes kind of a period of trauma.
No, I just can't imagine having bipolar in, you know, when you're confined to a small space, and like, you know, being depressed is one thing, but being manic, right? Having a manic episode and not being able to do anything with that energy inside.
Yeah, because obviously, like we've had to say in every single episode, pretty much is we're conformed to the same kind of room, same house, like all day, every day for the last 9-10 months now, and obviously things haven't really changed. There was maybe a month or two in between where we had a bit of freedom as such, but then you're conformed back to these kind of secluded kind of environment, and it does take its toll. And I can assume that many people around the world have become a lot more depressed, a lot more in touch with their emotions, because what else can you do other than think?
Well, I don't know what the suicide rate is. Like, this is jumping onto something quite extreme now. I don't know what the suicide rate is, or what depression statistics, even if you can get that at the moment from people being in lockdown or tier 4 or anything like that. I don't know if we have any metrics on that, if there is such a thing, but I hate saying this because loads of people are going to probably disagree with me, and it's quite controversial. I'm almost at the stage now where I'm thinking people's mental health is way more important than this disease, this like COVID. I'm almost thinking I'd let it run rampant. I know that sounds really bad, but like, it's getting to that point now.
No, and Sam, I think a lot of us can agree. Like, given the fact that I don't know if you saw today, we have now exceeded the most amount of deaths across the world in the UK from COVID, and I know that it's very traumatic, it's very stressful that people are dying from this virus, and obviously it's now not just becoming numbers, it's becoming people we know that are kind of... Exactly. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, yes, it is a trivial disease, like it's horrible, but there are still other things happening that are causing deaths. There's suicide, there's abuse, domestic abuse. I don't know if you happen to read the stats of when the first lockdown kicked in, there were tons more domestic abuse cases, because where can these women run to when they're conformed to their houses?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's no outlet.
And guys as well, like guys get like any gender kids, it could be grandparents, it could be parents, anybody, friends, like whoever you're living with, it can still happen in the house. Like, abuse can happen in the house, right? And I'm just, this is why I hate saying it, because that is controversial. It really is. And don't get me wrong, like, it does affect people differently. Flus affect people differently. Like, I had it, right? I had COVID and I lost my sense of taste and smell. And I know somebody else, their blood oxygen dropped to like 90% or something, and that was really dangerous. So it can affect people differently, but I'm almost at the point now where it's just like, it sounds really bad to say, but it's just like, is this bloody worth it? Like,
look, we're kind of, I've used this analogy many times, and I've actually seen it being mentioned as well. We've become puppets to this government, and I never thought we'd be in a time in the world, in our lives, especially like with the fact that we are in such an extreme like digital era as well, and like we are an independent generation, especially where the government are telling us who we can and can't see. Like, they're telling us that I can't go and see my uncle and auntie. Like, they're physically telling us that we're not allowed to do these things. Like, how are we living in this kind of world?
Yeah, and linking that to like bipolar and stuff, like, there isn't anything. I mean, I don't know it. Yeah, of course it's needed. Like I don't see anything being done by the government to curb things like with people with mental health help.
No. And do you know what's even worse is the only reason that people are really talking about it and talking about these effects and what's happening to our mental health is people like us. It's people like the organisations that aren't making any money, people like friends and family that are looking out for random people like small businesses that are kind of raising awareness. It's not the higher end government that are kind of looking out for you. It's us around us. It's our own communities.
Well, yeah, at my work, for example, they're putting a couple of things in place. They got mental health people in the company that just, you can go to talk to, that sort of thing. And if you listen to one of the Boris Johnson's announcements, like, I can't remember which one it was exactly, but it wasn't too long ago. But someone mentioned, like, what are you doing about mental health? And I'm almost thinking, like, as that was asked, it's like, because they probably would have filtered it out and asked the appropriate questions. It's like, are you just talking about that because it's trendy, or are you talking about it because it's a serious problem? Because if it's a serious problem, you would put graphs up.
Yeah, no, it's all in that way, Sam, it becomes performative.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, mate. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. It's like, are you talking about it because everybody else is, or are you going to do something about it?
For example, someone dying, someone famous, for 10 years or so, you didn't care about this person, you weren't really bothered or whatever, but now they're dead, you kind of want to show they're a legacy act. But what were you doing when they were alive?
That's, perfect point. I haven't thought about it like that at all.
So, like, the same with mental health. Like, and do you know what? I don't know if you've seen, you might have done, and you might have even said something on this. I don't know if you've seen that meme going around of them 4 guys.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
So basically, these 4 guys dressed up as they do, and they're obviously out with each other, and this happened months and months ago. And I said this at the time, and I'm saying it again. So that meme, that picture went around. People were taking the piss. They were taking absolute, like, the absolute piss out of these guys for no reason at all. And the same people that are taking the piss out of these guys next day are coming in on social media saying, think about what you're saying to other people. You don't know what they're going through. But what happened to these 4 guys then?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it like that.
Do you know what I mean? Like, now them 4 faces are circulating on social media, and they didn't even they didn't intend to be that, like, the face of social media, but now you're kind of taking a piss out. Not you, I'm saying you as in plural. You're taking a piss out of these guys, and you don't even know what they're going through. But the next day, you're saying about Tom, Dick, and Harry, you need to care about. It's all performative. It actually makes me sick seeing these people, like, take the piss out of someone one day, and then the next day they're kind of saying, oh, well, you should do this, you should do that. Well, you have to carry that same energy, man. If you're going to be an advocate for mental health, that energy needs to stay throughout. You can't pick and choose who you're going to be caring for.
And they're nice guys. Like, if you watch that Piers Morgan interview, which they did, I think it was today or yesterday, they're actually really nice guys.
Exactly. And it's all to do with everything. You mentioned this quite a lot, Sam, and I use this reference because of you, is people take things on face value a lot of the time. Like, they'll see something, see a picture or see a glimpse of someone and assume. And the worst thing you can do is assume, because you really don't know the backstory to these people. Like, these 4 guys, I'm not saying this is the case, but they could have all had cancer. And they've got to this point where they're confident enough to wear things they like. They've grown their hair back. They've this, they're that. And now you're on social media taking a piss because XYZ has done it as well.
Well, social media, like, you're not actually seeing those people. It's like this whole cyberbullying thing that we talked about. It's kind of, from the other end of the spectrum, we're like, well, let's just call people bullies for now. Let's just call them bullies because it's just easier, right? And it's just, from that perspective, it's easier. You take the emotion away from it because you're not there. Like, if you and me, not saying that we do this ever because we're not the type of people, but if you and me were to stand in front of those 4 guys right then and just take the piss, what's the odds that we'd have the shit kicked out of us?
Exactly, but it's all trolling. isn't it? It's all,
Yeah.
everyone can become a troll and keyboard warriors, but when it comes to actually facing the repercussions of what you're doing, a lot of people just shy away and pretend like they didn't do anything. And maybe I feel like I'm a bit too fueled for this certain kind of thing that I'm talking about, but it does make me very angry that there'll be, like, I've seen it so many times, Sam. There'll be a girl on social media who'll be like, "Oh, stop taking the mick. You don't know what they've been through." But you'll search a keyword in their profile and realize they've been tweeting some other girl the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, that energy, what I'm trying to get at is, if you're going to advocate mental health and say that it's important to care about these things, you can't pick and choose and be selective in who you're going to kind of use that energy for. You can't bully someone on this end of the spectrum and say on the other end you're kind of against it.
And good point there, because you never know. Just to turn, well, going back to the original topic, like, one of these guys, like you said, could either one have cancer, or they could have tendencies to be the bipolar or depressed, right?
Yeah, of course.
You just don't know. Like, how would you feel if, like, we took the mick out of them, and that person, one of them thought, "I've had so much bad publicity from this." Maybe he goes into work, or one of them goes into work and he's got, he gets basically the shit ripped out of him, and then he wants to commit suicide the next day. Like, how does that make people feel?
Or on the other end of the spectrum as well, Sam, like, what if these four guys were happily and fine and they were just happened to feel confident this day on that picture, but now they've seen all of this trolling, all of this bullying, and now they've actually caused it, this trolling has caused them to feel depressed. And now you've all kind of basically channeled this into them, that they are now depressed and feeling these disorders. Everything, every action has a reaction, and if you're not ready to face what's going to happen, just think about what you're going to say.
Yeah, because you don't know what that person's going through and will go through.
But the thing is, as well, like, I know you say that, and a lot of us say that, like, you don't know what someone's going through, but you don't need to know what someone's going through to be a nice person. Like, that shouldn't dictate your behaviour towards someone. Your energy should just be positive regardless. And if they are going through something and you've been nice, they're going to appreciate that so much more than you pitying them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Maybe I feel a bit aggressive or sound a bit aggressive, but it just riles me up sometimes when I see things like this.
No, but it's a good point. It's a good point, but I do think we're deterring a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, back to, I guess, bipolar. I guess what we can kind of end on is things that we can do to help people and treatments. Yeah. I mean, there's a list of treatments on Mind if you wanted to read off of them.
Yeah. I've got treatments up here. So there's obviously cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, interpersonal therapy, which I guess I know what that is, but focuses on a relationship with others and how your thoughts, feelings, behaviors are affected by relationships and how they affect your relationship in turn. And behavioral couples therapy, so it's just couples therapy between partners, emotional regulation. Other types of therapy, enhanced relapse prevention, individual psychoeducation, which is a brief intervention to help you learn coping strategies, which I think is a great one.
Yeah.
Group psychoeducation. So this involves in a group of people with shared experiences led by trained therapists to build up knowledge about bipolar disorder and self-management, kind of like AA, I kind of am seeing.
Yeah.
Family-focused therapies involves working as a family to look at behavioral traits, identify risks. And that's a brilliant one, because if you've got a family, which, I mean, this isn't going to be the case for a lot of people, but a family which I know I have one of my friends who's got ADHD.
Okay, yeah.
And his family were very, very, very well. When I knew him and I knew his family, they were very receptive to that. And I think if your family can get involved to help one of your children, or maybe it's the father, the mother, whatever, that can go a long way.
Yeah, I think especially when you're in that environment where you're around your family a lot, when you're facing these things like bipolar, for instance, and you notice that somebody else is actually caring about you and kind of not tiptoeing, but actually being very observant of how they're being around you, it kind of makes you feel good that, oh, someone's actually going out of their way to make sure that I'm okay.
Yeah, and another point on that as well enough is some of these treatments might be hard to acquire because obviously I know demand's gonna be skyrocket now, and access to facilities for this or to actual consultants is going to be fairly limited. So there's another section on here which I really like. It's just about self-care, to kind of build, help sustain you for now during lockdown. If you do have bipolar or have bipolar tendencies, just monitor your mood, keep a diary of it, understand your triggers, which is important for everyone, even if you don't have bipolar. Learn your warning signs. I think you spoke about this before. Changes in sleep pattern, eating patterns, appetite, and behavior. So that also goes with your point where you said if you notice behavioral changes in other people. So taking practical steps here: manage stress, manage finances, plan ahead of a crisis, and look after your physical health. So obviously, diet, get enough sleep, exercise, and build a network. So as me and Nat say every week, just talk to people. Doesn't matter who it is, maybe friends, close friends, family. Just make sure they're listening, and offer some element of understanding.
And you know what? Through all of these kind of things of self-care, you might even learn more about yourself. And like, even if you don't suffer from bipolar, all of these things that you've just listed, Sam, these are good things that you should do on a regular basis anyway, just to get to know yourself a little better, so that it's kind of like a case of prevention as well, isn't it? Like, prevent yourself from getting these disorders by just looking after yourself. Yeah,
exactly. We just look after you. I think I mentioned this in a previous pod. So if your dog was dying, right? If you had a dog and it was dying, would you and your doctor the vet gave you medication for every single day of the week, would you miss out a single day to give your dog medication?
Well, no. You wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't.
No, but people have a tendency to miss out on their own medication. Right?
Yeah.
Because people's self-worth isn't enough.
And I think you're absolutely right, Sam. It's because in them instances, people value others more than they do themselves. But you've then got to think is, if you're not around, you could be the support system for so many other people. And now you're taking yourself out of this equation by not looking after yourself. Now you're leaving other people without a support system. And I know that's a selfish way to look at it, but that's true as well.
Well, especially if you're in a family and you have, I think the right word is dependent.
Yeah.
Like if you're in, if you're in an airplane and the airplane decides to go down, and you have a baby, you want to put the mask on yourself first, the oxygen mask on yourself first, rather than the baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thing. And that applies to everything. Just look after yourself, and then I guess looking after other people will come with that.
Yeah, of course, because you can't look after anyone else until you're good yourself. So I think we've covered a lot, and I think I've learned quite a lot really about bipolar and the different types of bipolar disorder there are. So yes, it's been quite an educational one.
Yeah, there is. I'm not educated enough. I'm not a GP, neither is NAF. Surprise, surprise. But there are medications available for this, which you're going to have to consult your psychiatrist or GP. So there's like lithium, anticonvulsants, antidepressants, antipsychotics. But obviously, I guess I don't know anything about it, but that depends, I guess, on the individual.
100%.
We won't touch on that. But yeah, just that's the type of thing maybe you'd be expecting if you want to go get diagnosed.
Yeah, well, what I'll do is these two links that we've kind of used, I'm going to put into the description. And if anyone wants to go in and look into a bit more depth onto these things, they can. Feel free to message us as well. Like if you have any questions on things that we've read out, maybe we can help clear them up for you and do some research for you. Like we're happy to help and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's good to talk about it all really. And now going forward, I feel like I'm going to be a bit more receptive and observant towards my friends and family to notice that if their behaviour's off, maybe it's a form of bipolar, or maybe it's a trigger that I need to kind of be more aware of and be a bit delicate around.
Yeah, the moral of the story is for most people, and this might not sound appropriate, but just don't be a dick. Like,
I think we say that a lot.
Yeah, it's true, though. It's true. Just don't be a dick. Make people's, like, everybody's going through shit at the moment.
Yeah.
Just don't be a dick. Make life easy for yourself and other people.
Yeah, definitely. I think I always say this as well, like, it's all about compassion, empathy, and sympathy. These are three things that if you can allow yourself to feel for other people, it will go a long way, because you'll feel better in yourself, you'll feel more of an understanding person, and others will feel better from it because they'll realise that people care. And that's all that we want. We want people to realise they're not alone, and hence why we have these chats ourselves. Like I said this to you prior to the call, like I think this is going to be quite an educational one for us.
Yeah, and it has been. Like I learned a lot in it, and I thought I knew like a fairly small amount about bipolar, but you know, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, definitely. I guess we'll cap it off there. This is episode 31. Just to reiterate, thank you for your support, guys. We wouldn't have been doing this if we didn't have the listeners, so we're really appreciative of that.
Yeah, and give us a share. We've been doing this for 31 weeks. Well, if you're including the video, when we've had like 2 weeks, we had a break last week, didn't we? Because we just thought, we need to. I think, it's just worth a share, please.
Yeah, please. So you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Just Mates Pod. On Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcast and podcast platforms, we are Just Mates Podcast. We're easily accessible. We've kind of really made sure that we're covered on different platforms. So if you don't have Spotify and don't have the means to afford that, you can always listen to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts and things like that. So there's different mediums that we've kind of made ourselves available to. And if you have any feedback, like just please let us know if there's things that you want us to discuss. Just use the hashtag JustMatesPod on social media. We do I do actively check them as well to see if we've been tagged. So if there's anything you want us to raise, just let us know.
Yeah, and you pretty much hit the nail there, mate.
Yeah. So I have been Nafis.
And I have been, as usual, Samuel.
And we will see you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.